All right, we have some major breaking news, and this is important. Trump's FBI just arrested a circuit court judge in Milwaukee, and we don't exactly know why. Then FBI Director Kash Patel posted a tweet explaining why, then subsequently deleted that tweet roughly 10 minutes later, meaning they're not confident in their argument, meaning we don't really know what's going on here. And this is, again, a major escalation in the current clash between branches. And Trump has spent the past month, scratch that, Trump has spent the past decade undermining our courts, our judges, rule of law in any way that he can because he hates process. Michael Popok was the first one to make this point to me, but he thinks that when Trump was sitting there in that courtroom about a year ago, it made Trump realize how much he hates process of any kind. That's why he's stripping away due process. That's why judges are getting arrested. That's why Trump constantly attacks the courts. He just hates process. But over the past 2 months, since Trump took office, his attacks on the judiciary have escalated. We've seen Chief Justice John Roberts have to come out and rebuke Trump. This is not normal. A Supreme Court justice, who was usually liked by Trump, had to come out late at night and say that Trump needs to stop calling for federal judges to be impeached. This is not normal, and it is insane that the president has to be rebuked by a Supreme Court justice. All right, this brings us on to today, when we learn that the FBI arrested Wisconsin Judge Dugan for obstruction, which only escalates a massive war that is ongoing. And can I just, before I jump into the story, this isn't even about enforcing immigration law. If it were, they would have gone through the normal channels, the normal courts. There are many, many immigration judges that you can talk to, but that's not what happened. They sent out a random haphazard tweet after arresting a judge. Like, just to take a step back one more time, if you're going to do something as important as arresting a judge in Milwaukee, a circuit court judge, you better damn well have the court filings ready. You better damn well have your statement ready before. You can't do it in this sloppy message where you send out tweets and then you delete the tweet. That's not how rule of law works in America. It's kind of just sending the message, if you're a judge and you don't curtail your rulings to fit our our administration, then you're going to get arrested. Incredibly scary. Let's break down this Kash Patel tweet in just 1 second, but let's lay the groundwork. By the way, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to help boost this insane story. So federal judges arrested Milwaukee Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan on obstruction charges, says FBI Director Kash Patel. We had to learn it from Kash Patel. Kash Patel made the announcement in an X post, which was quickly deleted. Dugan is accused of helping an undocumented immigrant evade arrest, according to Patel and Patel only. We don't have any documents, we have no proof, we have no photos of her arrest. All we know is that Kash Patel sent out a post, then Kash Patel subsequently deleted that post. Is that not kind of scary that you can get arrested and the only proof of your arrest out there is this bug-eyed dude who deletes tweets 10 minutes after? But let's continue. This says, federal agents arrested a Wisconsin judge on Friday after she allegedly helped an undocumented immigrant evade arrest, FBI Director Kash Patel said. Patel announced in an X post that she had been charged with obstruction, but that tweet was quickly deleted. The FBI did not immediately respond to requests for comment on why the post was removed. Something about this is very, very sketchy. I mean, yeah, the sketchy part is that a judge got arrested, but the way that FBI Director Kash Patel is dealing with this is very, very sketchy, doubly sketchy. The tweet was quickly deleted. The FBI did not immediately respond for requests for comment, but a senior law enforcement official confirmed to NBC News that Dugan was arrested about 8:30 a.m. local time in the parking lot of her courthouse for allegedly assisting an undocumented immigrant in avoiding arrest after he appeared in her courtroom last week. Dugan is in custody pending her planned presentment later Friday. How absurd must that be? To be a judge, you spent the past few decades as a judge, now you're going to be sitting in the opposite chair across the room. That's just insane. So FBI Director Kash Patel's tweet reads, and this is the one that he deleted. I had a screenshot of it. It says, just now, the FBI arrested Judge Hannah Dugan out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, on charges of obstruction after evidence of Judge Dugan obstructing an immigration arrest operation last week. I'd like to see the evidence. Show it to us. I mean, you should have this evidence prepared when you're doing something as important as arresting a judge. No, you should have everything prepped. Okay, to continue. We believe Judge Dugan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, allowing the subject, an illegal alien, to evade arrest. Thankfully, our agents chased down the perp on foot and he's been in custody since, but the judge's obstruction created increased danger. Okay, now that I've read that post, and by the way, my hotel room lights just turned off. I have no clue why it got so dark in here. But now that I've read this post, there are a few takeaways that I want to point out. First of all, I already talked about how process is the enemy in Trump's world. He's never had a respect for checks checks and balances. In fact, he wants to actively erode any check possible, whether it's the media checking him, whether it's courts and judges checking him, whether it's law firms. You guys have heard about the law firm suits lately, whether it's universities or individual students. He does not care about checks and balances. He views legal process not as a safeguard to democracy, but like a bug, like a nuisance that you have to flick off your shoulder or whatever the hell. So first of all, process is not going to happen here. That's the scary part. But secondly, Kash Patel is not an apolitical FBI director. It's almost funny saying those words out loud. Kash Patel is about as far as possible from apolitical as it gets. And you know what kind of annoys me? Biden tried so damn hard to make his entire administration very moderate, not moderate politically, but moderate in terms of how they wield power. So Merrick Garland was like a moderate dude who decided not to go hard after Trump. And why are the Democrats just so feckless with who they appoint? I'm not saying we should appoint somebody like Kash Patel on our side, but if they're going to be arresting judges with Kash Patel, can we not have at least a little bit of pushback or safeguard or strong voices out there? But the third thing is, this is kind of how institutions collapse across countries. The judicial branch is supposed to be entirely independent. And when the administration, the current presidential administration, is arresting judges to get them to curtail how they rule, how they act, how they speak, how they operate on a daily basis, then that is a slippery slope. This is exactly how it happens. This is how democratic norms are slowly eroded as judges are arrested and the judicial branch is then forced to bend the knee to the executive branch if they don't want to be arrested. Now, here's the thing. We don't actually know what Judge Dugan did or what evidence there is, and that's the problem. We have no effing clue why this judge was arrested. We only have a now deleted tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel. Now, if the FBI came out and was like, hey, this judge had a bunch of like dead bodies in her basement or whatever, then of course we're gonna be like, yeah, she should get due process, but that's terrible. That's not what happened. There was no actual evidence of any wrongdoing. This judge didn't hurt anybody. We don't know what the judge did, and that's scary to me. And without knowing what the judge did, Trump supporters are still endlessly defending this. So imagine a reality where Trump supporters are able to endlessly justify arrest after arrest after arrest because they think that it's justice. They believe that the institutions are already so corrupt that arresting these judges is somehow a step in the right direction. They think that the institutions are so corrupt that we don't need due process or anything else. And that's something we need to push back against. I understand that America is far from perfect. I'm in debt. I have family members who almost died because of the healthcare system. I mean, I understand that America has a lot of problems, but for all of our problems, we don't just want to like take a wrecking ball to every single institution like USAID or the HHS. There are ways to reform these things without taking an effing wrecking ball to them. People are incredibly dissatisfied with our institutions, and for a lot of good reasons, but that doesn't mean that we remove due process. That doesn't mean that we arrest judges and we deport people with zero due process or trial whatsoever. A lot of people get that confused. It doesn't have to be so extreme. Just because my family member was screwed over by the healthcare system, yes, it makes me angry, but I want to reform the healthcare system. I don't want to go and see immigrants get deported and watch U.S. aid just allow diseases across the globe to spread. So there is a middle ground where you can be rational and want to work towards a better America. That's not what's happening here. This is towards a more authoritarian America, and I'll leave it at that. Drop a like, subscribe. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.